What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
Here we are again on another sunny, beautiful day for episode 9. And also, we're doing things a little different. Not really. Kind of. Sierra moved out. She moved out. She moved out yesterday. So she had to come back home to our house to do the podcast because that's where we do them. And we are in what was her former bedroom. It is now our guest room. So it's our guest room / podcast room. We're also decorating. Don't fucking judge me for Christmas.
I am not in my house yet. I will appreciate. Don't get me wrong. I like all the Christmas shit, but I will wait until after Thanksgiving.
I do not. I officially can tell everybody that November 1st is the beginning of what I call Thankmas, because I think Thanksgiving and Christmas are all together decorated the same way with Christmas stuff. Lights, Christmas trees, all the things. Plus, my husband's going to be going on a trip for a couple weeks. And so that takes up time. We're going to be going on a vacation in December. So that takes away time from decorating. So Halloween, Jesus. Every year Halloween ends, Christmas starts the next day in some sort of fashion, whether it's watching Christmas movies, decorating, whatever. I decided to take advantage of the fact that I had people here to help, and I'm decorating for Christmas.
And this is the first year in 24 years that I've not helped decorate.
It is true. Or the tree.
Because even when I went to college, I was still here for all of that.
Yep, because we would wait for her to come home from college a lot of the times. So that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of really that's so sweet, we can jump right into what we're talking about if you want.
Okay.
It's not sweet. I'm just like, it's not sweet. Okay. So we are talking about Mary Bell.
She sounds sweet.
She does sound sweet. And actually, if you see
or like
her,
a dairy cow,
if you were to see her picture, she was a very sweet looking person. She murdered two preschool boys. And this happened in England, and it happened in 1968. Now, I'm going to first of all say, technically, she is a serial killer. And I know I said I wasn't going to do serial killers. However, I halfway was researching when I realized, oh, fuck, she's a serial killer. So then I was stumped. But this is probably my most favorite episode I've researched so far. And so because of that, I decided to keep it with us. But I'm also going to do the same topic on Fatal Blend. And that topic is going to be a little bit different because on Fatal Blend, we talk about it in a different way. You will hear her name on both of our podcasts, but that's how interested I am in her. Okay. So just
it's not like because there could always be a chance where we just find another person super, super interesting and they could be a serial killer. But it's the fact that the Fatal Blend podcast is
specifically
just serial killers.
Yeah.
Ours is a more broad spectrum, but we try to not do serial killers. But if they're super interesting.
And again, on Fatal Blend, we talk about the serial killers, and we a lot of the times talk about the psychological factors that lead to the serial killers and how we don't blame their mental health for why they kill, but we do use it to explain what the fuck happened to them. This, I will give you a little info or a little sneak peek. That is why this is so interesting to me. I'm really hoping that you enjoy this because I could have researched her forever if there was more stuff. She's fascinating, and not fascinating, wow, she's amazing, fascinating, holy shit, this girl, right? So let me just get into it. Oh, but before, one more thing. So this episode does have to do with child murder, and there is some sexual abuse. So please, if it makes you uncomfortable, skip this episode, and we will catch you next week. But this is very fascinating. I highly urge you, if you can sit through child murders, please listen.
Wow.
I know. Sorry.
What a way to word that.
Sorry. All right. So we're going to start with talking a little bit about Mary. So Mary Bell was born May 26, 1957 in Newcastle, England. Her mother was Elizabeth Betty McCricket.
Wait, did you say 1957?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you say this happened in 1960?
Yes, I did. No, 1968.
Still.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yes.
Okay.
Way to do quick math.
I was like, wait, did she have a fucking typo?
I am so impressed because that's one of the most fascinating things about this shit.
Okay.
And I wasn't even going to say
Sorry, I wasn't
it.
going to jump to
No,
conclusion
I didn't
there,
even
but
want. I
like,
wanted to see. That was one of the first things I want to see is would you catch how young she was?
Because I was like sitting there and I was like, did she
Yes.
say the right dates?
Yes.
Or
very well. Way to pay attention, ma'am. Okay, so yes, it is correct. Her mom's name was Elizabeth Betty McCricket, and then she eventually got married and became
wow.
became Elizabeth Bell, but she went by Betty. She was a very well-known prostitute, and she would often spend a lot of times away from home. Most of the time she would spend her time in Glasgow for work, and she had, I think she had 2 children, and they would spend some time with their father, but they would spend like most of their time just kind of like with other people or whatever because she would be gone and she was very neglectful of them. Mary is actually her second child. And just to give you a little context, Mary's her second child and she was born when Elizabeth was 17. So she had a child before that. So she was she was a prostitute. So she had multiple children. Now it is unknown actually who her biological father really is. But Mary believed almost her whole entire life, that her father was the man she was raised by, who was William Billy Bell, who was Betty's husband that she eventually, gets married to. And he was a violent alcoholic and a criminal who was arrested multiple times for things like robbery and stuff. And he did marry Elizabeth when Mary was a baby. So that's why they're not sure if he's the biological father or if they,
But you just said when she was a baby, so she was already born?
She was, but they were dating, I think. I think they knew each other.
Okay.
But they're not sure if he's the biological father or, the fact that Betty is a prostitute, it could be any number of people's child, right? But he does end up marrying her. And again, he raises Mary, but he's not really in the picture very often. And when he is, it's like he's a raging fucking asshole alcoholic, right? So he's not like a good fucking role model. But in Mary's mind, that's her dad. That's who her dad was. Since birth, Mary was unwanted, according to one of her aunts. Like it was reported that in the hospital, when Betty gave birth to her, she actually placed Mary into the hospital staff's arms and said, "Get that thing away from me. I had you when I was 18. I did not do that."
Bullshit.
I did
You
not
said,
say,
I don't want to hold her.
I did not say I don't want to. They said, "Would you like to hold her?" And I said, "Well, her dad can hold her first." That is what I said. I did not say I did not want to hold her. Actually, I did that with your brother too. Because you just have a baby. You're tired as shit. I actually think this is an unpopular opinion. When you have your baby, most people will want to just like hold their baby right away. Number 1, don't you dare put that baby on me without cleaning off the baby first. That's fucking gross. Number 2, I don't really want to hold the baby right away because I'm fucking tired and I want to just relax for a hot minute. And if my husband, or at the time my boyfriend, was there, he can hold the baby too. It's his baby too. That's why. It's not because I don't like you guys. I'm just like, I'm tired and I'm checked out for a hot minute. Leave me be. That's a very unpopular opinion. I don't have good motherly instincts. We know. We know. I still love my kids though. No lie. Anyways, okay. So during her younger years and her teenage years, Mary actually suffered multiple injuries when she was left alone with her mom. Now, family members believe that Elizabeth was purposely harming her daughter by either means of neglect, like purposely leaving her and then she's getting hurt on her own, or purposely hurting her, like trying to kill her. So these are the things that they think. One example.
And nobody fucking stepped in.
Well, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. So one of the times, Elizabeth, again, Betty, dropped Mary from a 1-story window when she was about 3 years old. Like dropped her out the fucking window. Okay. Another time, Mary was doped up with sleeping pills. Overdosed basically on sleeping pills. And again, there was no proof that she did it. It was more like when she fell out, or when she was dropped out the window, it was like, oh shit, she fell out the window. But family members were like, no, she wasn't. And when they found her with the sleeping pills, it was like, well, how'd she get those? She's fucking little. There's no way she got into them type thing. She also sold Mary to a woman who was mentally unstable and was unable to have children. Now, what I read in two sources was that she found this woman outside of an abortion clinic and gave her the child, like sold her. But those are only two reports. But yeah, so she like just didn't want Mary. Now, Elizabeth's sister, one of her sisters, had to travel wherever this lady had taken Mary, travel to go get Mary and take her and bring her back. Because she obviously was like, what the fuck? But she then gives the baby back to Elizabeth instead of like keeping it. And this is because the family offered multiple times to Elizabeth that they would take Mary and raise her multiple times. And every time she flat out refused. She did not want them to have anything to do with raising her child, basically.
Well, neither did she.
Obviously, exactly. Neither did she. Now, she also sucks even more as a mom because not only did she refuse to have anybody take her child, and not only did she physically fucking abuse her daughter, but she also allowed her clients to sexually abuse her daughter starting at the age of 4. And one of her jobs as with her prostitution is she was a dominatrix. And she actually was involved in a lot of these as the person who demanded her clients do stuff to her daughter. That was her choice. So she's a fucking terrible human. Okay. Now, Mary starts to show signs of abuse at school. Because at this point, basically from birth, she's been physically abused, mentally abused by both her father and her mother. And now starting at the age of 4, she is sexually abused by her mother and her mother's prostitution clients or whatever. She starts to have mood swings, just like random mood swings. She is an avid and constant bedwetter, and she would fight with both the boys and the girls at her school. Now, she had actually attempted to strangle or suffocate multiple classmates on multiple occasions. And one particular incident, she actually blocked the trachea of a girl classmate with sand.
What the fuck?
Because she's an angry little girl. No shit. I mean, again,
impressive.
Not giving her any excuse, but listen, fucking her life is fucked. Now, over time, her classmates actually would start to be able to tell when she was going to have these crazy mood swings and become violent. She would do things like shake her head, like start shaking her head, and she would like stare at somebody with like this steely gaze. And if they saw that, they knew that who she was staring at would be attacked. Which is not funny. But like, you think about it, if you're in elementary school and you have a classmate that's having these issues, if the stare is at you, like, what are you going to do? Like you freaking out because you're like, ah, fuck, it's me. I'm the next one.
It makes me think of the stare. Have you ever seen the girl on TikTok that does the pig
stuff?
That's the stare that I like imagine in my brain. I love her, but like,
I do too. She's
stare,
fucking impressive. Yeah, no,
stare
for real.
Is what I imagine.
For real. You're like, ah, fuck, here we go. Here we go. So on May 11th, 1968, there's a 3-year-old little boy who is found wandering like around this neighborhood. And he's dazed, he's confused, he's bleeding. And people find him and they call the police. And he tells them that he was playing with Mary Bell and her friend Norma. Norma's last name, I'm going to tell you the last name, but I won't say it anymore because it's going to get confusing. Norma's last name is also Bell, but they are not related. And Norma is 13. And Elizabeth, Mary at this time is 10. So Mary's 10 and Norma is 13, and they're friends and they're neighbors, and they met each other and they're really good friends and they hang out all the time. Now he tells them that him, Norma, and Mary were playing in they had these areas where there was like housing that was falling apart kind of because they were rebuilding like the neighborhood, and they had like some bomb shelters from like World War II. They have all these areas and these kids like to play in these areas. So he was telling him that he was playing like on top of this bomb shelter thing, and that Mary pushed him, or not Mary, that he didn't know who pushed him, but one of the two girls pushed him off the top of the roof and he fell 7 feet down onto the ground.
Damn.
Yeah. And that's how he ended up hitting his head, and that's why he was bleeding. And then he like got up and started trying to figure out where the fuck to go. Now that same evening, there are also 3 different sets of parents who contact the police to tell them that Mary and Norma had tried to strangle their girls while playing in a sand pit. 3 different sets of parents. So 3 different girls with 3 different parents call the police and say, this is what's going on. Now they do interview both of the girls who claim also, first of all, they had nothing to do with that little boy falling off the roof. They actually found him. They said, oh, well, we found him and he was on the ground. He was already bleeding and we didn't know what happened to him. We found him after he fell off the roof. Okay. And Mary says, I don't know anything about these strangling things. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. However, Norma.
Sans her MO. What the fuck?
Exactly. However, Norma has something a little different to say. Norma says that Mary tried to throttle the girls. And this is what she said. I quote, this is what she says. Mary went to one of the girls and said, what happens if you choke someone? Do they die? Then Mary put both hands around the girl's throat and squeezed. The girl started to go purple. I told Mary to stop, but she wouldn't. Then she put her hands around Pauline's throat and she started going purple as well. And then another girl, Susan Cornish, came up and Mary did the same thing to her. So this is what Norma tells them about Mary.
So she like went into like fucking Hulk mode and was like, choke, choke, choke. What the fuck?
Pretty much. Now,
this girl needs anger management.
Now, due to her age, because she's 10, and of course Norma's 13. The 2 girls, like nothing actually happened. They did not get in trouble. They were basically both just given like a stern warning, like don't do that again. Because they're young, which at some point, I don't know when people are going to realize that young is literally what matters. If they're doing this shit at this age, you need intervention. They don't need to go to juvie because juvie doesn't fucking have intervention, but they need to go. Well, juvie does, but their intervention sucks. You need to find out what the fuck is going on with these kids. You should investigate. Okay. And then you need to like put this girl on the right path, but you chose to just
think
let
about
her
it
walk
at
away.
the time.
Of course not. In this, they
that.
didn't think about it. So this brings us to May 25th, 1968. Mary Bell strangles 4-year-old Martin Brown. And so they were in the upstairs bedroom of one of those neglected homes that I was talking about. Cause again, they're rebuilding a bunch of homes. And so there's these empty houses, but people still live in that neighborhood and they still live in the houses until their new houses are ready. And then the ones that nobody lives in, they're kind of like falling apart. And kids, there's like a specific road that the kids would play on. They called it Tin Lizzie. I don't know. That's just what it was. So they were like playing in those areas, playing in one of those homes. She strangles him. Now, she was alone when this happened. Okay. And his body is actually discovered by 3 different children at around 3:30 in the afternoon on May 25th. He is lying on his back and his arms are stretched out above his head. And it's so sad because he's 3. So you can just imagine a little 3-year-old, right? Now they scream for help, right? And a man shows up and he goes in and he sees.
You said he was 4 before you get into that.
Oh, he is 4. Yeah. The other one's 3. Yes, he is 4. But still 3 and 4 years old doesn't make, you can think about these little, right. How little, like their little hands, like, you know what I mean? Like little. So a man comes to help, and like these kids are, yelling for somebody. As this man comes in and he sees him on the ground and he immediately tries to start CPR and it is unsuccessful. Well, while this is going on, Mary and Norma show up. They like kind of peek in, they look, and then they leave and they run to Martin's aunt's house and they tell her that there has been an accident and that they think it was Martin, but they weren't sure because they only got a glimpse of him. But then they also told her that whoever it was covered in blood, which was not fucking true. There was no blood on him at all. So that's kind of mean. That's like a mean thing to say. So they do an autopsy because they're kind of thinking, what the fuck? Because when they found his body, he's laying on his back. His arms are stretched out. There was an empty pill bottle, like a sleeping pill bottle next to him. So originally they thought he had like taken sleeping pills and died. But it didn't make sense because he's 4. Like who the fuck's taking sleeping pills when they're 4? Well, clearly Mary was because her mom gave them to her. But other than Mary, who else is taking them? Nobody. So they want to do an autopsy. There's no signs of, honestly, foul play. No blood. There was a little tiny bit of blood at the corner of his mouth. That is it. And they were just like, there's literally no signs of anything happening to this kid. So what the fuck? So they do an autopsy and the coroner, I guess, discovers there is no signs of foul play and he cannot give you a cause of death because he has no fucking eye. Because again, he can't tell what killed this little boy. Now, rumors start swirling that he had died of poisoning because of the bottle of of like sleeping pills or whatever that were next to him.
Yeah, but a coroner should be able to determine if they died due to strangulation.
Clearly not, because he was unable to tell how he died. And then he says, I can only tell you that he did not die of poison. Like, I can tell you he did not die of sleeping pills or anything like that, but I cannot give you an actual cause of death, which to me tells me that, well, I guess we'll get more into it because I don't want to give too much away. So hold on to that. I understand, because I felt the same way. I was like, well, why didn't he know that he at least suffocated? But the second murder I'll tell you why I think that maybe he wasn't able to. So then on May 26th, 1986, it's Mary's birthday. So she turned 11. Yay. Now, Mary and Norma decide this is a great day to break into and vandalize a nursery near Woodland Crescent. And the following day, so May 27th, the staff go to work and find that this place had been broken into, and it was fucking just distraught. But the reason they really called the police was because they found 4 different notes claiming responsibility for the murder of Martin Brown inside of this nursery. Now, one of them, and I saw pictures of these notes, and they're written they're written by 11 and 13-year-old girls. Okay, so they're very fucking rough. But anyways, one of them says, I murder so I may come back. Okay. The next one says, we did murder Martin Brown. Fuck you, you bastard.
Well, we know that was Mary.
I'm going to preface these. I am not calling anybody any derogatory names. This is the names they signed. Okay. They said on the last 2, because they say it on the last 2. So it says, another one said, fuck off. We murder. Watch out. Fanny and faggot. That's what it is. Please don't hate me. I am just reading the damn thing. And the last one read, you are mice. Why? Because we murdered Martin. Go Brown. Better look out. There are murderers about. By Fanny and faggot, you screws. Which I don't even I have no idea.
How does any of this make
It does
fucking
not.
sense?
It does not. So actually the police read these and they go, okay, these are just shitty kids fucking around. This is a mean prank. This little boy died and there's these stupid little shitheads that are out here making fun of him. Then on May 29th, both Mary and Norma show up at Martin Brown's house, the little boy who died. And they go knock on the door. His mom answers the door and they say, hey, can we see Martin Brown? Well, they probably just said Martin. And her response is, oh, I'm so sorry. Martin has passed away. And she's trying to delicately explain to them that this little boy died. And Mary pipes up and says, oh, I know he's dead. I just want to see him in his coffin. Fucking mean. Fucking mean. So this brings us to July.
And that right there's not a red flag to fucking anybody. The mom, like,
I know. Oh, you're going to fucking hate that. You're going to hate this case. I'm just letting you know. Okay. So then on July 31st, 1968, Brian Howe is 3 years old and he was in front of his house in the street playing with his siblings, his dog, Mary, and Norma. And they're all playing. And then all of a sudden he disappears and he doesn't come home. And he's supposed to be home at a certain time. He doesn't show up. His family and friends are kind of like, what the fuck? Because he's 3. They're talking to the sister. Hello, have you seen your brother? And she's like, no. So she goes out and she starts looking. Mary and Norma are helping look for this little boy now because nobody knows where he is. At 11:10 p.m., they do find the body of Brian Howe between 2 large concrete blocks near the Tin Lizzie Road. I don't even think it's a road. Near the Tin Lizzie is what they called it. Now, police find that someone had actually tried to cover the body because there was grass and weeds all over his body, but they did a really fucking terrible job. You didn't cover him at all, basically. It was also noted that he had cyanosis, which is a bluish tint from lack of oxygen around his lips. He had several bruises, several scratches on his neck, and there was also a broken pair of scissors near his body. Now they do an autopsy on him, and it reveals that Brian died of strangulation and that he had been dead for up to 7 hours before the body was found. And it was concluded that the killer had squeezed Brian's nostrils closed and gripped his throat at the same time. He had a number of puncture wounds to his legs that happened before his death. He was missing sections of his hair that had been cut away from his head. His genitals had also been partially mutilated. And there had also been an attempt to carve an M in his stomach. Now, They were also able to tell that very little force had been used, so it led them to believe that he was killed by another child. So that right there is why I think they had a hard time with Martin. Because with Martin, he didn't have anything that was real crazy. Like, you wouldn't dig too deep into his death because there was nothing that, I mean, it literally looked like he accidentally died somehow. And if there's such little pressure that it's hard to tell, that they might have had a hard time seeing strangulation because of how, like, if it was a matter of just plugging his nose and covering his mouth, it might not have showed them that he wasn't strangled then at that point. Right. So, and they kept saying, the coroner said, I'm telling you, like, I'm assuming it's maybe there were some bruises and stuff on his neck, but it's the amount of bruising and pressure they could tell. It was just like such a light amount that it's like whoever did this was very delicate, but it was most likely a child. So now they know, okay, hold on. So this boy was just killed by another child. Then they start to go, well, there's a little boy who was killed not too long ago also. So shoot, maybe his death wasn't an accident, right? They also found maroon and gray fibers on his body, which did not match anything from the Howe's home. So they assumed that whatever those fibers were came from the killers. And it started to become a little noticeable at how interested Mary and Norma were in this murder. Okay. So like Norma was all up in everybody's fucking business and she was like wanting to know everything. And she was reportedly excited, had like an excited temperament when it came to talking about it. She wasn't sad. She wasn't scared. She was like, oh, like, so like they were like, it's kind of fucking weird. And Mary was very just involved. So the police, one of the detectives kind of was like, okay, something throws me off a little bit about these two girls because they're real fucking weird. On the day that Brian is buried. So I don't know how they did it back in the 60s, but whatever. His body was at his home. And then they brought him out of the home in a casket to bring him to go be buried. Well, the detective is there watching this whole thing go down because I think he's looking for any fucking suspects. And he happens to notice that Mary is standing outside the home and he noticed and he's watching her and he notices that she's standing outside staring. And when they come out of the house with the coffin, she starts to rub her hands together and laughs. Like fucking creepy. And he said to himself, oh dear God, this girl's going to kill again. So right then he knew it was her. Like he just knew it because he already had suspicions. But then he saw her and he was like, no. So they do start like an investigation and they start to wonder if Martin at this point was not actually an accident. So the first thing they do is they start to question Mary and Norma. Now, Mary does tell the authorities that she actually saw an 8-year-old boy with Brian on that day that he had died and that she had saw this 8-year-old boy hit Brian for no reason. She also said that she saw the boy with a broken pair of scissors at some point. So they're like, okay, what's this boy's name? So she gives them a name. So they're like, cool, we're going to go talk to him. So they go to talk to him and they find out that, nope, he couldn't have done it because he was literally at the airport all fucking day. Like, I think his family was leaving to go on a trip and he was sitting at the airport all day when Brian died. So he definitely had nothing to do with it. But see, now they're starting to wonder, well, Mary, how'd you know there were broken scissors? How do you know that broken scissors would even have been used, right? Now, they question Norma, too. And she tells the police that Mary told her that she had killed Brian. And she actually then gives them details about what happened. So they arrest Mary at 12:15 at night. They show up at her house. She's fucking 11, like, knock, knock. So they go to her house and they arrest her. After questioning her, and she's adamantly denying that she had anything to do with this, she was released at 3:30 in the morning. So they questioned her from 12 until 3 o'clock in the morning about if she knows anything, what she knows. And she denied it, the whole thing, denied everything. The next day, the police officer's like, I fucking know she did this. Like, I can just tell, but I just need her to, because it was the way she answered questions. And it was how she would, like, you could tell that she was methodically thinking it out. And he said at one point, she literally was like, I'm going to leave because you're just trying to brainwash me. She's fucking 11. And she's like, I'm leaving. Thanks a lot. So they bring her back in, start talking to her again. And this time she does end up actually making a statement about the murder of Brian. And she says, Norma did it. She says that Norma killed Brian and she wrote a whole fucking statement Well, she didn't write it. Let me rephrase. I did not. I could have copied the statement. It was long, so I didn't want to because they actually have what her signed statement was. And basically what it was is it starts out by saying, I need somebody to write this down for me. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. And her version of it is that she was there, but she didn't kill Brian. Norma did. And that Norma did this and Norma did that. And then Norma told her, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill you.
Basically explained how she did the murder, but instead of her saying that it was Norma.
Yeah. And she also said, Norma told me that if I told anybody, she was going to kill me too. And I just watched her kill this kid. So like blah, blah, blah. I will say real quick that when they were searching for Brian, so you need to keep this in mind. When they were searching for Brian, they're walking around and Brian's sister's walking with Norma and Mary. They're yelling out for Brian. And Mary says, oh, look over there. There's some concrete blocks over there. Maybe he's over there. Maybe he's playing over there. And Norma said, no, he'd never go there, and pulled them away from going there, which is the only thing that makes me go, did she fucking kill Brian? Right? Because if you were Norma and didn't kill him, why wouldn't you want somebody to find the body as soon as possible? Whereas Mary she wanted people to, when she killed the little 3-year-old boy, she wanted people to find him too. That's why she left him there. That's kind of that's a precursor to how I feel about what's going to, towards the end. Okay. I'm just going to tell you right. I'm not 100% sold that Mary Bell killed this little boy. That's one of the reasons. I'll just say the other reason is because if she murdered the first boy, which she did, do you notice how there was nothing done to the boy but being strangled? The second boy was basically mutilated, which is a very big jump for somebody to make, right? So just keep that thought in mind. But regardless, okay, so they do arrest her. They arrest actually both Mary and Norma after this. So then on December 5th, 1968, Mary and Norma are both put on trial for the murder of Martin Brown and Brian Howe. So they both are being charged with both murders. Now, Mary, at this point, has seen psychologists and psychiatrists, and they have diagnosed her as a sociopath. Now, at the end of the trial, Norma is actually found not guilty, and Mary is found guilty of manslaughter because of diminished responsibility for both boys, meaning diminished responsibility. It's kind of like, well, I think it was her age. She was 11. So they're basically saying you're not old enough to truly know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. She was given what they called detention for life. Okay. Now what that basically meant is that she's in prison until they fucking damn well feel like letting her out. So she could be in prison until she's 82. She could be in prison until she's 12. It's just based on their decision. And she's young. Now Norma was actually given 3 years of probation later after all of this stuff for breaking and entering for the nursery thing that they did. Now, they did say that part of the reason why they think this happened this way was because during the trial, Norma was surrounded by her family, who was crying and she was crying, and they were caring and loving. And of course, my daughter would never. And they were like, well, she's a good kid. And Mary is sitting with no fucking support. Her family, I don't even think her mom showed up half the time. She's just this girl who's sitting there cold as fucking shit. She's that troubled kid that doesn't come from a good home. Which, again, I'm not sold that Norma didn't have anything to do with it. I actually think Norma did have something to do with it. And that's another reason why, because her family made it to where she was not guilty. I think, well, first of all, the fact that she was found not guilty at all for anything is crazy. She should have at least been brought up on charges of like being an accomplice, because she was fucking there. Well, she said she was never there, but she was there. Now, due to her age, due to Mary's age, and the fact that she was a girl, there was not very many places they could put her, because at this time, they didn't really have facilities for girls who were this young, 11 years old, who were murderers, right? So they end up putting her in an all boys facility, because I don't think they didn't have a girls facility for her age. They literally had prison. That's all. And you're not going to put an 11-year-old little girl in prison with fucking 20-year-old women. You're just not going to do that. So they basically put her in like a juvenile detention area home, but it's an all boys home. They put her in there, and she obviously does end up having issues like down the road because of the fact that she's a girl and there are a bunch of boys there. Like, obviously there's that stuff. So when she is 16 years old, they move her to prison. And when she gets there, she struggles to fit in. She's really rebellious at first. She fights. She doesn't do anything they say. But then she kind of adapts to prison life and she ends up, chilling. And in 1977, she's actually transferred to a less secure facility. So she goes from like this prison to less secure. And when she's there, she actually escapes. Because that's what one does. That's what one does. So then she's recaptured. She's recaptured. So on May 14th, 1980, Mary is released from prison. She's 23. She was given a new name, a new identity by the government. She also had a child, and her child is also protected with anonymity. And as far as anyone knows, she is still alive, and she's living a very quiet life somewhere in England under protective custody by the government. I'm just the messenger. Surprise! Surprise!
Wow.
Now I'm going to say, this one's got me all kinds of fucked up. Because
did anything happen to Norma? Because I only
Nope.
feel like...
Nope, she just got probation for breaking into the fucking nursery. That is the only thing she ever had. I mean, I didn't research her, to be fair. I thought about maybe I should research and see if I could find anything about her. But I will say we know that Mary Bell is still alive because she did meet with a lady in 2009 or a little before 2009. And that was because this lady was writing a book about Mary and she wanted to talk to her and she was willing to talk to her. But yes, she is protected under the England anonymity law. And she said part of the reason why she did that is because she didn't want to be in the limelight. She didn't want people to bother her because everywhere she went, there was always, people, not newspapers, journalists and stuff. So this one's got me kind of fucking twisted. And here's why. Because we talk about rehabilitation. Okay. We talk about all these things. And I'm looking at this kind of going, I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe this was the right decision for this scenario because she was 10 and 11 when she killed and she came from a really fucking awful background. And then she was gone to prison and she went through a ton, and I mean a fucking ton of psychology. She went through a shit ton of group therapy. She went through relearning life skills, and she also was on medications to help her with whatever it is that she's dealing with. This is one of those things. This is why I'm so interested in it, because again, she was so young that they do say all the time, if you can intervene with somebody when they're young, you might be able to change them. You might be able to help them. You might be able to change the way they are by finding the right therapies or finding the right medication concoctions. And maybe that's what happened with her. So I'm very, very mixed on this one because I also feel she did spend 13 years in prison. Well, 12 years in prison for murder, which some people spend even less than that. So it was very I mean, she has a book that was written about her. It's very controversial. Her getting out of prison was very fucking controversial. People were really upset. And then you had a whole other group that's like, but she was only 10. Like, don't forget, she was 10. She was 11 when she killed these little boys. She was a child herself. So this is why I'm so interested in this story, because this is one of those stories where the psychology of it fucking rocks my brain, especially because she was diagnosed as a sociopath. I think she was diagnosed wrong because a sociopath it's widely believed that sociopaths cannot be cured and they cannot be rehabilitated. And so I'm actually thinking she was misdiagnosed, and I think that she had other issues for sure. But was she rehabilitatable? Was she able to be rehabilitated? And obviously I think so, because she left prison in 1980 and never killed or hurt anybody ever again. Ever. And her daughter had a granddaughter. She has a grandchild. I'm not a granddaughter. Her daughter had a child. She's also a grandparent as well. And when she did this book, she did tell the lady who was writing the book, she said, I'm a different person than I was when I was 11 years old. I was a very hurt child. I was taking my anger out on other people. And she said, I'm horrified by my actions. I live with that every day. And she said, it's even harder for me now that I have a child now once I had a daughter and I had a grandchild. She said, I can't even fucking believe what I did. So is there a chance that she is that person? She's like that fucking diamond in the rough that made a terrible, awful, horrific fucking choice when she was 10 and she moved on. I don't know. And here's the other thing. And then this is all I have to say. Even on the day she was released from prison, she continues to say, I did not kill Brian Howe. It was Norma.
See, but she doesn't say, oh, I didn't kill both of them. She just doesn't admit to one of them.
She actually admits to killing Martin. She does. Later on, she does admit to killing Martin. She does. And she actually, I think that's part of what she put in her statement actually, was that she had killed Martin, but she did not kill Brian. And to me, I'm sitting here going, at this point, you're getting out of prison, ma'am. You can't go back to jail for this. You've already served your time. You're getting out of jail. So why would you not tell the truth? That's the story of Mary Bell. I know I'm a mixed person on this one. I know you're probably not. I know you probably are like, fuck, that girl should have never gotten out of jail. That's probably how you feel.
Yeah, but I'm more interested in the fact of how Norma should have
gotten in some sort of trouble.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me, I mean, I'm not obviously in that field for like a career, but with our technology today, if they did what they're supposed to and keep evidence and things like that, there's just something in me that tells me you'd be able to find something that relates Norma to the second murder. Because the scissors alone, you're really telling me there was not a single fucking fingerprint? I get brand new scissors and I have fingerprints on them.
And here's the other part of it. Here's the other part of this whole thing is that, again, I think the only reason why Norma didn't get in trouble is because she was going up against a girl who was the troubled kid.
Well, and I wonder if the fact that an M was trying to be carved into his stomach too, which in Norma's sense, if she's the one that did it,
to frame Mary.
Yeah. Because she probably knows.
Well, and she already,
that she killed the first.
Yeah.
Boy.
Well, and she, so here's the thing with that. So Mary said, this is what Mary said. She said, I killed Martin. Now her story on killing Martin changes though. So I'm not sure if she just doesn't remember it properly or whatever.
Well, she might go into like a blind rage and just not remember.
She said,
not that that's okay, but
one of the times she said it was an accident, like she didn't mean to. Another time was that she did it because she had just gotten into a fight with her mom and she was pissed and she took it out on this little boy. So she's had a couple of different versions. However, what she says is, yes, I strangled him. And she said, and after I killed him, I went and got Norma because I told Norma I killed a little boy. I killed Martin. And she's like, I'm going to show you. And so she said that the reason they walked in when the guy was doing CPR is she brought Norma back to show her. Now, Norma, don't get it twisted. When I was reading research about Norma was just as fucking shitty and evil as Mary was. She just was really good at pretending not to be. She's actually, in my mind, almost more dangerous because she was able to make people think that she was not manipulating. She's a manipulator. Whereas Mary would do bad stuff, but Mary also would be very like blatantly, like when she talked to the cops, she'd just be like, yeah, I mean, this is what I did. Like she was very matter of fact. It wasn't the same as Norma. And Norma to have excitement straight from the police officer's mouth. Norma to be excited about watching this little boy's body get found, and Norma being excited to hear and talk and be, to me, there's just a lot of things that are like big fucking red flags. But I think back in that time, you had one girl who's admitting that she did kill one boy, but didn't kill the other.
Well, I mean, if I was on a jury back in that time and you have one girl saying
I didn't do
that
it,
she did murder one boy.
Yeah. And then you have the other one
the
crying.
Second murder.
Yeah.
And neither one of them is saying that they did it. Well, I'm probably going to pick the one that already murdered somebody.
And they're pointing fingers at each other. And then when you're looking at who they are, you're looking at Norma, whose family surrounding her,
so look at
and
their
family, and
background.
they're loving, and you're like, okay, there's no way this loving child could do something. And then you look at Mary, and it's like, wow, she has like no support, and the support she does have is abusive as shit. Well, cool.
You never know. The evidence that they could have brought in too could have also been how she grew up and all of her instances in school and things like that. Like,
of course.
Unfortunately for Mary, well, fortunately but not unfortunately for Mary, with how she got brought up and all the shit that she did growing up.
Yep.
She didn't, it's not like there's a good case for her to really be like, well, did she not? Nope. But no, I think there's something shady about the second murder, and
Me
there's
too.
something shady about the Norma girl.
Me
But
too.
the one thing that I will say is what is weird to me is that if she was getting excited with all of the stuff going on, why would she try to lead them away from the stones? That's my only thing.
True.
Because I get what you're saying, but also on the other hand, if she's that excited about it and that like intrigued and like just like basically loves it, you'd want to go back and you'd want to see it and you'd want people to find it and have that like suspense. So that's the only thing that I will say. Like Mary was leading them over there, but then Norma wasn't. So, and fuck, for all we know,
they could have done
if
it together.
I was just
too.
gonna say it could have been something like
it could have been Mary strangled
him and Norma fucking
so
did everything
if I'm being
else.
honest, that's actually what I think happened. I think that Mary strangled him and then Norma did the rest. Because like I said, Mary's MO for everything she did in her life was strangling people. She strangled multiple girls, multiple classmates, multiple kids. She admitted to strangling Martin. And so the strangling, I 100% think was a Mary thing. But the rest of it, the stabbing in the legs, the genitalia stuff, the mutilation, cutting his hair, carving initials, none of that was done with anybody else. And I think that's a really wild jump for somebody, because let's just say she is really a sociopath. Let's really just say that, because to be fair, I want to make it clear. And I talk a lot about this on Fatal Blend. Sociopaths do not equal killers. They do not. So please, if you have a sociopath in your life, they're not necessarily a killer. They just can't, they don't have emotions. They're emotionless, right? And so just because she's a sociopath does not mean that she's a murderer, right? But when you want to talk about a serial killer, let's say, had she not been caught, do I think she would have killed somebody else? Yes, I do. And that's where the serial killer part comes into play. And again, she's technically a serial killer because she killed 2 or more people with a cooling off period because it was, times between. But typically when it comes to sociopaths or serial killers, they have a specific way they kill and they stick to it. Her specific way was strangling. It's a wild jump to go from strangling somebody to doing all these other things. They're unnecessary, because that's not what made, when she strangled, if she was like a person who maybe she liked the thrill of strangling somebody, you're not going to mutilate their body. That's 2 completely different things.
It makes me wonder if maybe Mary strangled him and then did another like, oh, Norma, like look at what I did.
Yeah.
And then Norma maybe went back
And
later
did it
on her own and did the rest. And the only reason why which I know it probably would have come up to be like, well, it was this time after, based on whatever the coroner would see, but it would not shock me if that's kind of what happened as well, because again, for Mary to be like, oh, well, let's go look over there. And then for Norma to be like, well, no.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because she went back and
You're
did
right.
stuff later.
That's a good point too.
I don't know.
But I think we both agree that Norma had a lot more to do with it than what.
Oh, 100%.
She should have gotten in some
100%.
sort of trouble. Bravo for picking up on the fact that she was so young in the beginning, because I really didn't know if you were going to. Because I know for me,
I didn't do like mental math to be like, oh, she was blah 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 years old. But I was like, that's not like an adult.
I'm thinking like for me, I probably wouldn't have caught on to that. Like, and so.
Well, because I'll be honest, don't get me wrong, I really like doing the podcast. I love them. I get interested in them. But sometimes I'll zone out when you're talking and just kind of like process everything. Yeah. And then that's why we said that. I was like, wait, did I hear the right fucking dates?
Okay, but hold on. But again, like I said, the reason I really liked this one and why I wanted to still do it on here, and then I'm also going to do it on Fatal Blend, is honestly purely her age, because that's fucking young. And she got out of jail. These are the 2 things.
With a new identity.
With a whole ass new identity. So you can't even find out who she is. Which, to be fair, again,
See, to me, there's something shady about that too.
Well, she filed that. Like they didn't just like offer it to her. So when she got out of jail, when she was 23, she was.
I guess it's also not the United States.
It's not.
It's a little bit
but
different.
But she's basically in their WITSEC program. So she had actually gotten out of jail. And then after she had her daughter, she went to the courts and filed to be in their WITSEC. And her reason was she wanted to protect her daughter, actually. So it wasn't really, she hated being followed.
From Norma.
I know. That's what there is
just
that part
saying.
where I'm sitting here going, is there more to this that we'll just never know? But like I said, I understand that we don't know what her identity is, but the fucking, I don't know if the UK has FBI, but I know like in the United States we have
They
FBI.
do, but it's something else.
It's something else, but like they're the ones who handle WITSEC. So they would have one person who would know who she formerly was. And if she got into trouble or killed a bunch of people, they would know. And the fact that she's never been, not only has she never killed anybody, she's never been arrested for anything else in her entire life. The last whereabouts they had of her is that she lives somewhere in London in like, on like a farm or something. Like she's completely withdrawn from the world, which honestly, I fucking totally get that.
It makes me wonder though what she is like as
I know
a
as
mother.
a well, and I mean I wouldn't know, but
Like, did you also put your daughter into witness protection so that you could kill your daughter?
well, no, because her daughter just had a grandchild in
Oh, yeah, that's
2009.
right.
So
Never mind.
but that's what I'm saying though. And also, how unfair. That's the part that makes me, this is the part that makes me go, this is why I'm conflicted. Because I sit here and go, reforming somebody works depending on what the situation is. This is where that
It also depends on the individual.
Well,
I feel
no,
like, too.
right. And this is why when I say like, I think most people deserve a second chance, even though she killed 2 little boys or was charged with killing 2 little boys, she ended up going on and having like, not a normal life, but living a life with her daughter or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, like maybe that was what it was supposed to be. But then there's that part of me that goes, but how fucking unfair to the other family, to the 2 families who lost their boys.
Well, I was going to say, if it was you,
I can tell you right now, if it was me and it was my child that was killed, I would be hunting down who that person was after she was out of prison. That's my honest to God truth.
See, I was going to say that's where you and I differ on the second chance thing.
There's no way.
To me, it depends on the crime. It depends on the situation at hand because everything's different. But for the most part, if you do something like that,
I will never understand. I have seen people who forgive the murder, their killers.
Oh, I would never.
I couldn't. There's not anything you could tell me. I mean, and I tend to
listen. My therapist could tell me to do that, and I'd be like, "That's one step I'm never taking."
It's never happening, and the reason it's never happening is because you had a choice. That's how I always feel. You destroyed somebody else's livelihood.
You took somebody's life.
And you had the choice. It was your choice to make. You didn't. Now, it would be different if it was like a fucking car accident or some shit like that. But when you murder somebody because you fucking want to, I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you have a mental instability, mental illness, I don't care about any of that. None of that will allow me to ever forgive you. Ever. And you can have it and I can take it as an explanation of why you did it. Sure. But I'll never be able to look at you and go, well, I forgive you. Abso-fucking, the people who do that, bravo to you. Bravo.
Especially in cases like these where it's children. You're taking children's lives.
Fucking 3 and 4 year old little boy.
And on top of that, like if I were the family of these victims, I would be severely pissed off because not only did you get out of jail,
but you got to hide for the rest of your life
as of right now. But now you get to change your identity. So basically, I'm not saying I would like hire a hitman, but like if anybody wanted to go after you in any way, shape, or form,
they couldn't.
They can't.
No, that's what I'm saying.
If it was
me,
I feel like not just her getting out, but her getting out and getting a new identity. The new identity thing, I think, is what pisses me off the most.
Me too.
Not even her.
I'm not going to lie. That makes me angry. That was one of her getting out.
Shit like that happens all the time.
Well, and I was going to say she served 12 years. I'm not going to, because people serve fucking 5 years. Because again, we have to remember she wasn't charged with murder. She was charged with manslaughter. So 12 years is a sentence that, somebody with manslaughter would get.
See, but I also feel like people who murder people should never get out of prison.
Well, I understand that, but they're extenuating.
Which I know it's not how it works.
Well, and there's extenuating circumstances,
especially
to
kids. Though I feel like you should be like in the maximum security.
Obviously. Yeah, obviously, but
you should have the worst shit coming to you.
But she did serve a sentence. It's not like she got out when she was 12, right? So she served 12 years. You got to think about it this way: she served a majority of her most of her young years in prison. Okay, in prison. So okay, fine, she did that. She got out. What I was most upset about was why was she allowed to get out and be anonymous? Because she wanted to protect her daughter. Well, guess what?
She should have never even had that as an option.
No, she shouldn't have. And on top of that, well, I'm sure that those families wanted to protect their boys too, but you were a little girl who killed their children. You killed their child. So they probably did protect and want to protect their kids too. So I don't think that she should have had that option. That I 100% agree with. And that's like, yes, I totally think that the whole being able to live anonymously is pretty shitty. That's a big slap in the face to the fucking families, I think.
No.
But her getting out of jail, I understand that. I actually do. And I'm upset she only served 12 years. I kind of wish she would have served more, but I'll give it to her because she served 12 years and she kind of is like a rehabilitated different person. She should have just never been able to be anonymous.
Now, I will say, on a side note, I always get kind of impressed when it's kids killing because I'm just sitting there like, damn.
When you were 10, were you thinking about how to fucking
First of all,
somebody?
No. But thinking of like when I was 10, like I don't think I could have.
No.
Like even if, I mean, granted, I wasn't that,
But that's why for her, she was very fucked up. That's why I don't think she's a sociopath. I think that she had a really atrocious background and she was reacting. Cause again, when you're little, your reactions to shit are so different than when you become an adult, right? She reacted terribly. She made really awful decisions.
I guess this is kind of in a way nature versus nurture.
That's exactly what it is. And that's, if you know, that's exactly why this was so favorite. This was so favorite for me because I love that nature versus nurture. I don't think she was born bad. I don't. Because I think if she was born bad, she'd still be bad. I think she was raised bad. Not that she was raised to be bad, but her childhood from the age of fucking birth was nothing but abuse in all different kinds of forms.
I'm not blaming the aunt, but I think if the aunt would have never given her 100%. Back, I think
the aunt, I think the family, I think the family members of hers that are not her mom all feel pretty fucking shitty that they didn't fight harder. But again, it's not the United States, so I don't know what their rules are.
And it's a completely different time.
Exactly. So I don't know how that works. I know now if you were seeing like these abuse and all this, like the United States, we have CPS that you can try to have step in. But even that, this is not to dog on the CPS, but they don't do the job like they're supposed to. There are a lot of times where people go through CPS and these kids are fucking killed in a home that they're supposed to be safe in. And then on the other hand, there are people who get their children taken away for like not real reasons. And like I just don't understand how it gets so backwards.
Whole system's fucked up.
It's so fucked up. Everything's so fucked up. But anyways, yes. So that is why I was very excited to share this one, because this one was definitely one that I did not think that you would never expect. And like I said, I'm going to share this one on our other podcast. And that other one, I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about nature versus nurture, or the fact that there's going to be some extra, probably little tidbits in there. Just because I talk differently on that one. I talk a little differently about that one because I dig more into why they're serial killers. And she, again, is technically, by definition, a serial killer. So that is and was the story of 10-year-old Mary Bell, who killed the 2 little boys in her neighborhood.
And Norma.
And fucking Norma, who we all know has something to do with that shit. That is all. Listen to us. If you like this stuff that we be talking about, follow us on our Instagram at Crime Bitches Podcast, our X account at Crime Bitches Podcast, and our TikTok at Crime Bitches 2. If you have anything you want to say, you can also email us at crimebpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's where we're at. And I think this is where I gonna say, see you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.